Good day, everyone. Welcome to our lecture for today. As we have discussed last week, one of the three concepts I told you that I feel is most important in study guide number 1 is the concept of nature versus nurture, identity versus self. For this week, we are going to discuss naman identity versus self, or self versus identity. As previously discussed, self is considered as the holistic definition of a person. When you say holistic definition, it's the most complete description of a person. It includes all those that we are consciously aware of, yung alam natin consciously, and of course, all of those things that are not that we are not aware of but is part of us, such as those that are unconscious to us or subconscious to us. Sabi ko, example nun, our mannerisms. Now, when we say naman sa identity versus self, what makes identity different from self? From that, we are going to borrow Erik Erikson's theory on psychosocial development. His theory on psychosocial development is basically how human beings grow socially or how we interact with society, with other persons in the community. Now, one of the stages of the psychosocial development theory of Erik Erikson is called identity versus role confusion. This stage occurs during the adolescence period between 12 and 18, approximately. During this stage, adolescents explore their independence and start developing a sense of self or an identity. When you say identity, it is differentiated from self in the sense that identity only pertains to that part of the self where one is consciously aware of. That part of the self that is being shown in society. Yung pinapakita natin sa ibang tao. As to identify our own individuality. As to identify our own identity. Yung ating ako, sino ba ako sa mga kaibigan ko? Sino ba ako sa pamilya namin? Ano ba ang identity ko sa classroom, sa mga classmate ko? Ako ba yung komedyante? Ako ba yung laging sumasagot sa mga tanong ni sir? Ako ba yung kopyahan o ako ba yung laging nangongopya? Ako ba yung laging on time? Ako ba yung any questions class? Ako ba yung laging sir, may I ask you clarificatory questions? Ikaw ba yung pag may nagtanong? Ay, ano naman siya, di ba? Identity. Now, as we transition from childhood to adulthood, teenagers may begin to feel confused or insecure about themselves and how they fit into society. As they seek to establish a sense of self, teens or teenagers may experiment with different roles, activities, and behaviors. According to Erikson, this is important to the process of forming a strong identity and developing a sense of direction in life. Ibig sabihin, experimentation. Actually, part dito yung gender identity. Some of you may get confused. Do I like girls? Do I like boys? Do I like both? Am I straight? Am I gay? Ito yung sinasabi nating identity and role confusion. Let's use that example, LGBTQ. Once you identify yourself as straight, ibig sabihin, if you're heterosexual, if you're a boy, you will like girls. If you're a girl, you will like boys. But sometimes, it leads to role confusion. Or identity. Part pa rin pala ng identity natin. Or basically, you identify yourself as gay. Ibig sabihin, you are sexually attracted or romantically attracted to the same sex. Girls and girls, boys and boys. At least you identify yourself. Alam mo kung sino ka. Halimbawa naman, those who would have problems when it comes to confidence. I know every time that I step in the room, ako yung comedian. Ako yung nagbibigay lagi ng comedy. So parang you really identify yourself with that. Confused ka, merong role confusion naman if hindi mo alam talaga kung ano yung identity mo. It comes to gender identity. Sometimes you really do not know ano ba talaga. Straight ba ako or gay? Sabihin, sometimes naging ano ka. So sometimes you like girls, sometimes you like boys. Parang meron ka role confusion. Yun yung sinasabi ni Eric Erikson. As we grow up, we tend to have a sense of identity. Parang ito yung ipinapakita natin sa ibang tao. And this is the version of ourselves that we are consciously aware of. Ulitin ko the main difference between self and identity is that identity is really something that alam natin na talagang we identify ourselves with. But our unconscious is not part of our identity. Bakit? Kasi nga, hindi natin alam yung unconscious natin. We are not aware of it. So therefore, it cannot be part of our identity. Kasi nga, ang nagde-define ng identity mo, ikaw mismo. So for example, balik naman tayo sa inyo. Kung ano yung course ninyo, whether you are a rad tech, you are an education student, a midwife student, or a medtech student, you will have your own identity. For example, education ka. So pag education ka, you identify yourself as a college of education student. Kapag medtech ka, you identify yourself as a medtech student. So pagdating mo sa GoodSam, pagpasok ko, sir, medtech student ako. So parang yung learnings mo, alam mo, yun yung mastery mo. Yun yung what defines you as a student currently, as a college student of the Good Samaritan Colleges. Ako naman, sometimes I'm identified as a teacher. That's my identity right now. I am teaching you. But if I am in the courts, I would be identified as a lawyer. I'm Attorney Alden de Guzman. In my office, I would be identified as Sir Alden kasi hindi naman lawyering or hindi naman teaching yung identity ko. But I know who I am. I know my identity. So for example, right now, since I am your teacher, I identify myself as a teacher and identify my role as a teacher, and I know how to conduct myself as a teacher. Why? Kasi yun yung identified ako dun sa specific role ko na yun sa society. The same is true when I represent my clients. I identify myself as a lawyer. So, ginagampanan ko yung role ng isang lawyer. That's my identity. Now, yung mga ibang bagay naman. Now, identity involves the experiences, relationships, beliefs, values, and memories that make up a person's subjective sense of self. This helps create a continuous self-image that remains fairly constant even as new aspects of the self are developed or strengthened over time. Identity provides the following. Teka lang, bago i-discuss yun. Sinasabi rin dito, your identity is a summation or is a total of the experiences, relationships, beliefs, and values, and memories na experience mo at that specific moment in time. This helps create a continuous self-image. Parang ako, I have been a teacher longer than I am a lawyer. So parang ako, sometimes as I talk to my clients as a lawyer, I sound like a teacher. Because that is how I still identify myself. I still identify myself as a lecturer, as a professor, as a teacher. Kaya sometimes it affects my other roles in society. Kumbaga kasi continuous self-image kasi that's how I see myself always. Parang kayo din. Kung ano man yung identity niyo, that's really basically how you see yourself. You see yourself. Identity provides the following: self-sameness, uniqueness, and psychosocial development. When you say self-sameness, a sense of continuity within the self and in interaction with others. Ibig sabihin yan, kilala mo kung sino ka. Halimbawa, you're a very confident person. You do not really have any insecurities about yourself, about your identity. So para kahit sino kausap mo, you are able to think, you're able to express yourself really well. Kasi nga, alam mo kung sino ka na. Alam mo na ikaw si Juan de la Cruz, ikaw si Pedro Penduco, ikaw si Maria Makiling. Alam mo kung sino ka. So kahit sino yung kausap mo, basically it will not change. When people talk about you, talaga confident kay bata na yun. Confident na kay tao na yan. So, masasabi niya sa'yo kung ano talaga yung gusto niyang sabihin. O minsan naman, you identify yourself as shy. Mahiyain ka. So, parang ano nun, kahit sino yung kausap mo, very timid ka magsalita, you're unable to really speak from your mind. Kahit sino kaharap mo, ganun din. Self-sameness. Sabihin, meron kang consistent pattern of behavior that identifies you as such. Parang ako, during my nung talagang full-time teacher pa ako, one of my identities was that, mabilis ako magalit. Isa ako sa mga isa ako sa mga strict talaga na teachers. So kahit sino yung kaharap ko, or even though when I got promoted, when I became dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, that strictness became a part of me, that I was also strict to the teachers that are my subordinates. Then when I became a lawyer, parang ganun din. Yung strictness na yon, nag-follow din siya dun sa staff ko sa law office, or on how I handle clients. A sense of parang strict adherence to the rules. Ganun din ako as a father sa mga anak ko. Strict din ako. Self-sameness, parang consistency in behavior. If you are consistent, then you are identified as such. Kasi kung hindi ka consistent, kung walang self-sameness, there can be no identity. Pag paiba-iba yung version mo, minsan mahiyain ka, minsan makapal mukha mo, minsan masayahin ka, minsan iyakin ka, minsan malakas boses mo, minsan boses ipis ka. Walang consistency. Sino ka ba talaga? Sasabihin sa'yo. Wala kang identity. Pero kung may consistency ka, doon pumapasok one of the elements of identity. Uniqueness also, number 2. Afraid to differentiate between self and interaction with others. Parang you will be unique. Yan na, di ba? If you really know someone, if you really identify with them, marinig mo pa lang yung yapak mo steps nila, alam mo sila na yun eh. Marinig mo pa lang yung boses nila, good morning, alam mo sila na yun. Sa law school, alam namin kung sino yun. Alam ba, ayan na. Kasi parang nararamdaman namin. Kasi yung sa law school nun, yung hagdan, kahoy. So, tak. Ako si judge, ganito na. Patay na tayo. Natatakot na kami, yung yapak pa lang. No? Uniqueness. Kasi nga, there's a certain uniqueness to you. And because you are unique, it becomes your identity. It can be, halimbawa, your body shape. It can be a mole. Meron ka dito, tawag sa'yo, pasas. Ayun na si pasas. Ayun na. Kasi unique ka. So it is identified to you, to yourself, to you as a self. Then psychosocial development. Mental and physical health for adolescents. Ibig sabihin ng psychosocial development, may kanya-kanya rin tayong our identity is really evolved through the mental and physical experiences that we had. Mental, ibig sabihin, paano ka pinalaki. If you are brought up na masaya, you really do not have any issues. Or sometimes, if you're brought up in a very harsh environment, or nagkaroon ka ng isang particularly depressing episode nung bata ka, minsan it also gravitates to, you were sexually abused when you were a child. Sometimes, it also becomes one of the reasons for role confusion. You are unable to establish an identity because you really do not trust the people around you. So you are not able to socially develop as well as others. Now, sabi ni Eric Erickson, during the teenage years, 12 to 18, you either develop your sense of identity or you develop role confusion. Na-establish natin yung identity. That means you have self-sameness, consistency, pare-parehas ka ng ginagawa. Then you have uniqueness. You are identified because of a certain unique characteristic, either physically or mentally. And then all of those self-sameness and uniqueness was developed through your psychosocial development up to your current age. Now, role confusion naman develops if you are unable to identify or to form an identity. Parang you are unable to really become you or have a definition of your self, of your identity. Kids who are not allowed to explore and test out different identities might be left with what Erikson referred to as role confusion, which can result in the following: being unsure of who you are and where you fit. Halimbawa, college ka na, first year ka na. Ba't ka ba nag-edu? Hindi ko po kasi alam kung ano yung gusto ko. Sabi po na nanay ko, mag-grad tech na lang po ako. Ano ikaw, ano gusto mo? Ala po. Drifting from one job or relationship to another. Meron akong yung pinakamagaling namin kaklase ng college. Hanggang ngayon, he cannot really stay in a job for more than 1 year. Bakit? Bakit ka ako nagdidining ka na doon ba't umalis ka pa? Sabihin niya, parang may hinahanap ako Hindi ko lang masabi ko ano hinahanap ko, kaya lang wala doon Hanggang sa nakakasampung school na siya, nakakasampung company na siya, still really do not enjoy working. Still trying to find the perfect place for him. Or drifting from one job or relationship. Wala siyang fixed set of friends. Iba-iba lagi yung kaibigan niya. Kasi eventually nakakaaway niya or kinatatamaran niyang kasama. Then feeling disappointed and confused about your place in life. Parang hindi ka satisfied lagi kung ano yung meron ka. One of those is siguro. Sabi ni Erik Erikson, you may still not develop a sense of identity. That is why you cannot still feel a sense of belongingness. Ako, magbigay akong example. My personal example. When I passed the bar, I became a lawyer. I really tried hard to maintain my position in GoodSA, in school, in the company. Why? Because I still identify myself as a Samaritan. Parang I have been with GoodSA for so long. I really cannot see myself parang working for anyone else or going elsewhere. Kahit na lawyer ako, parang hanggat gusto nila ako, I still try to do a certain job. Bakit? Kasi nga, I identify myself with them. So I say that I am not really confused with my role. Di ba? Yung iba naman, sometimes cannot really stick in a job. Kasi parang hindi pa talaga nila alam kung ano yung para sa kanila. Hence, hindi pa nila alam yung identity nila. So they have role confusion. Ano ba yung benefits if you have already an identity? Hindi ka nawalan ng role confusion. This lecture provides for commitment, self-confidence, sense of independence, and fidelity. Commitment, resolving the crisis at this stage of development, involves committing to a particular identity. Hey, I am gay. Oh, may problema ba yan? Wala. For me, wala. Actually, most of my friends are gay. They are not all straight. And I find nothing wrong with their preference in their identity. Because at least they are resolved to that. Actually, yung iba, medyo medyo confused ako, yung closet. Ano yung closet? Alam mo naman that they are gay, whether they are gay men or lesbians. But they still deny it. Parang sinasabi, ay, hindi Pare, hindi. I like girls. Pero alam mo naman, parang it's basically very obvious. Yun, ibig sabihin, they are still not committed to their particular identity. And also, they might be having trouble committing to relationships or to a particular career or deciding what social groups they want to associate themselves with. Even developing a sense of personal style. Ano ba yung personal style mo? Sir, wala. Ibig sabihin, baka wala ka pang identity. Also, having an identity would provide you with self-confidence. Those who are able to develop a strong sense of identity are able to have self-confidence or a sense of trust in their abilities, qualities, and judgments. Ako siguro, I really have an identity because whenever I accept a particular case, a particular job, or particular teaching assignment, I always feel confident about how I will perform with that particular task or with that particular job. Sabi ni Erik Erikson, if you do not have really an identity, minsan, ito yung mga tao na kulang sa self-confidence. Parang they really do not trust themselves or their judgments. Probably because of role confusion. Also, those who have identities, one of the benefits of having an identity is a sense of independence. Those who receive proper encouragement and reinforcement through personal exploration will emerge from this stage with a strong sense of self and feeling of independence and control. Those who remain unsure of their beliefs and desires will remain insecure and confused about themselves and the future. Ibig sabihin ng sense of independence. When I first got a job, the reason for it is that I wanted to move out sa bahay namin. Gusto kong umupa ng sarili kong apartment. Why? Bakit? Kasi nga, katanda-tanda ko na, pinagagalitan pa ako. Oh, pagagalitan ka pa na, tanghali na, hindi ka pa gumigising. Ano ba naman yan? Nakahilata ka na ng sopa. Magurong ka na bla 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 bla. Diba? Kaya when I was in college, tuwa ako kasi I was able to live away from my parents, away from home. Kasi nga, I really like the feeling of independence. But some of us naman really do not want to leave home. Isa yun sa benefits of identity now. Parang we really are very comfortable being independent, to live on our own and to support ourselves. And lastly, fidelity. Fidelity is another name for loyalty. Those who have successfully developed an identity, a psychological virtue characterized by the ability to relate to others and form genuine relationships. Loyal. Hindi babaero. Yun yung mga sinasabi na. Basically, loyalty not just to your romantic partner, but loyalty to job, fidelity to rules, loyalty to your friends. Now, ano daw ba ngayon ang causes ng role confusion? There are various factors that contribute to whether a person forms a strong identity. Friends, family, schoolmates, or other social groups. Societal trends, ano yung uso, and pop culture all play a role in shaping and forming an identity. Ano ba yung pop culture? K-pop. Ano yung uso at the moment? Diba sa pantalon? Diba? Nung high school ako, uso baggy pants. Nabutan ko pa yung elephant pants. Ano yung elephant pants? Basically, 24 inches yung lapad ng pantalon. Sabi ng father ko, dati uso pa daw yung bell bottom. Tapos uso yung maskip na pantalon. Then lo and behold, bumalik. Di ba? Uso ngayon skinny jeans. Dati nauso sa basketball yung long shorts, baggy shorts, Michael Jordan. Bumabalik na sa uso yung Jaworski shorts. Yung mga shorts in the 70s and the 80s, the early 90s, yung sandang ka lang yung short ng lalaki. Diba? Parang it really forms part of forming an identity, pop culture, sa media. Yung dati sa amin, ang media lang sa amin noon. Generation X would be radyo, TV, comics, pelikula. Ngayon, hindi na. Ngayon, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, actually hindi pa nga Facebook, Twitter, or other social media platforms. Yun yung basically nagde-define na ngayon ng pop culture. It is also one of the contributors of identity. Or minsan, sa sobrang dami, hindi mo alam. Ano ka ba? K-drama fan ka ba? K-pop ka ba? American style ba yung gusto mo? Depende sa consequences of role confusion. Role confusion can have lasting consequences on a person's life, including difficulties with commitment, kabaligtaran nung kanina, worse mental health and well-being, weak sense of self, ibig sabihin nun, poor confidence, inferiority complex, lack of confidence. Now, also this article that I have cited, nandun sa i-upload ko yung lecture, yung PDF. Nasa baba din yung source, yung URL address. No matter where you are in life, there are things you can do to help build a strong sense of identity. For example, thinking about your values are what your values are, ano yung importante sa iyo, help solidify your identity. Core values are those things that are really important and meaningful to you and that motivate you and guide your decisions. Kwento. Kwento. Matanda na ako nung bumalik ako sa law school. But I enrolled in law school when I graduated college, 2003. Kaya lang, I dropped out 2006 yata, 2007. Kasi bata pa ako nun, parang I really cannot read ganun kadaming pages. Cannot read 300 pages per day. I cannot memorize 100 pages per day. Kaya lang, then I had a career. I became a dean of the college. I think naman I have a successful teaching career also. I also had small businesses that were able to help me financially. But eventually, I returned to law school. Kahit nung isa ako sa pinakamatanda dun sa. Then, I took the bar exam. Siguro, when I took it, since I was older, I was more ready. That is why I think I succeeded. Imagine reading for 18 hours a day for 6 years. While doing something else, while being a teacher, being a professor, being a father, also being engaged in being an entrepreneur, it takes a toll. But because I identified myself as, for example, I really know that I can pass the bar exam. I identified myself as a bar passer kahit hindi pa ako pumapasa. Siguro that's why I succeeded. I know in myself, I believe in myself that I can really pass, that I can achieve, I can get the title of ATTY period. So, yun yung isang ganda ng how to strengthen your identity. Paano ko na-strengthen yung identity ko na yun? Because I value hard work. I really know the only way that I can get or achieve my goals of passing the bar exam is through hard work. Ala talaga, walang shortcut eh. Alang shortcut yan na, kahit hindi ko pwedeng gawin kodi ko. Ano ba yung hard work yan? Hard work involves reading and understanding. Reading. 18 hours a day. But because I valued hard work, I know, I identified myself as a hard worker. Ayun, I succeeded. Diba? That's how you strengthen your identity. You have to know your values. Now, how to decrease role confusion. If you're feeling confused about who you are and your role in life, there are steps you can take to decrease role confusion. Number 1, build your strengths. Saan ka ba magaling? If you're really not good in math, ako kasi I'm really bad at math. Alam niyo ba't ako bumabagsak na-discover ko? Simple plus, minus, addition and subtraction, nagkakamali ako. Di ba? Basic na basic. So, because I know that I am very poor, numbers is not my strength, I deviated from it. That is why I took the social sciences as a course in college. Kasi doon walang math. Di ba? Try new things to discover what you like. If you really do not know what you like yet, gano'n ka? Try. Bawa, ano favorite mong ulam? Hindi ko po alam. Tikim ka lang ng tikim hanggang ma-identify mo kung ano yung favorite. So favorite color, I do not know. Look for colors. See what you will be comfortable with. Make commitments and set goals. While you can set goals in part of your life, consider thinking about some common areas like health, career, finances, and education. Sige, balik tayo sa akin. Example ko, halimbawa health. I'm a diabetic. So mataas talaga yung sugar ko. So when I reach the certain age, talagang tinitingnan ko ano yung sugar ko 3 times a day. Nag-glucose test ako. So I have a sense of goal, kumbaga. So meron akong number of steps. I aim to walk at least 5,000 steps per day minimum. So yun yung goal ko, di ba? So na-identify ko yung sarili ko. Career. Ito yung career ko gusto ngayon. Then finances and education. Also participate in activities that are related to your interests. Whether church events or clubs for sports, take the initiative to become part of something that interests you. Also, I'm a big basketball fan. So parang isa yun sa identity ko. I join clubs, basketball clubs. Kasi it's part of my interest. Diba? So it helps me also to identify, to form an identity. Diba? So to cap it up, basically the difference between self and identity is that self is the holistic version of a person. It includes the things that you're aware of and also the things that you're unaware of. It includes your consciousness and your subconscious and unconscious. While the identity only talks about self-awareness. Kung ano ba yung pinapakita mo or yung ina-identify mong sarili mo towards society. Sige. So for this week's activity, I want you to basically give me a very short, 2 to 3 minutes lang, video recitation of your explanation of the difference between self and identity. That's number 1. And then identity versus role confusion. So dalawa. Maximum of 3 minutes. Sana 2 minutes na lang para mas mabilis. 1 minute per question. So again, this will not be a written activity. This is a video recitation. So you have to submit this video recitation to Ma'am Kim's account through Messenger. So i-record nyo lang Messenger. I do not know the ano. So 2 to 3 minutes lang. Minimum 2 minutes, maximum 3 minutes. So limited to 2 minutes siguro para hindi magkaroon problema sa sending ng video. Of course, you can write. Then you read what you write kung medyo hindi nyo kaya ng live. Again, there is no written activity for this week. This week's activity is a video recitation. So thank you much. Thank you very much, everyone. If you have any questions, just ask away in the group chat. So, lang, and see you guys next week.